Call this meeting to order. This is the June 18th meeting of the Concord City Planning Board. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes. Mayor Byron Champlin.
Negative.
Dina Kondo-Dimitraki.
Negative.
Chiara Dolcino.
Nope.
David Fox.
Here.
Matthew Hicks.
Here.
Frank Kinnison.
Nope.
Earl Pierce.
Here.
Teresa Rosenberger.
Here.
Jeffrey Santa Cruz.
Here.
Amanda Savage.
Here.
Councilor Brent Todd.
Here.
Chair Richard Woodfin.
Here.
We
All
have
right.
a quorum.
Have a quorum. We'll open the meeting. First item on our agenda tonight is to approve the minutes from the May 15th Planning Board meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those minutes as submitted?
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? You're gonna
One discussion is just, I was not present, so
So-
I'm recusing.
abstain?
It's not present,
So
but I
abstain,
did
so-
watch the video.
Still can't vote. So
I
it's
know.
two
Just let me
abstentions.
know.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions for the record?
Yes.
Amanda? Yes.
Yes,
Abstention.
yes, sorry.
All right, the
Sorry,
motion
I'm
passes. We'll move on. Agenda overview. If anyone is here tonight for item 7A, which is the amendment request for 11 Stickney Avenue, has been postponed to the July 17th meeting. Item 8A, the major site plan for 391 Loudon Road, has been postponed as well. And item 8B, the minor site plan addition for 313 Loudon Road. All three of those items have been postponed to the July 17th meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to move those items to the July 19th meeting? Is that correct? 17th, sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, so those items will be moved to the July meeting. If anyone's here for those won't be heard tonight. Item 5 on our agenda is design review applications by consent. For those in the audience, when we have items on the consent agenda, so this encompasses items 5A through 5G. They've been reviewed by Architectural Design Review, they've been reviewed by the Planning Board, and we will vote on them and take those in totality unless someone would like to take one of those off. Any member of the board have any items they want to pull off the consent agenda?
I would, Mr. Chairman, 5E.
Okay, so 5E will come off the agenda. Anybody in the audience have any items they'd like to pull off the agenda? If not, we'll vote on the items 5A, B, C, D, F, and G. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those applications as submitted with Architectural Design Review recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Let's hear item 5E, if we could read that into the record.
Expose, I'm assuming signs, on behalf of the John Flatley Company, requests architectural design review approval for a new 200 square foot internally illuminated pylon sign at 10 Ferry Street in the Opportunity Corridor Performance District. And I do have an email from the applicant saying that I just wanted to let you know that we will not be able to attend tonight's meeting. Should the board have any questions that we would need to answer, please consider this my request to continue the hearing to the next available date.
Okay, so questions?
I just want to make sure there is an RSA 23669 that talks about outdoor advertising. It's governed by the DOT when you're in close proximity to certain highways and class roadways. So they may need to check with DOT to see if they're required to get a separate permit.
Well, that sounds like a question, so I'm going to say, why don't we make a motion to continue it till the next meeting?
Yes, I just want to make sure
Yeah,
that it's on
perfect.
the record so the applicant
Absolutely.
maybe gets that
Yeah.
info. Yes, I'd certainly
And again,
like
I
to
think
say.
it's right there on the, up next to the road, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Earl?
Quick question. This section of 393, if history serves me correctly, is that not owned by the city? Remember the issue with plowing? that we
It's
had
owned by the
years ago?
DOT. My understanding, it's owned by the DOT. It's a section of 202 and 9. 393 stops at 93, and then it changes to 202. The issue was the sidewalk plowing, because New Hampshire DOT does not maintain
Right.
sidewalks.
That was the issue.
Okay.
So
Yep.
this is, I forget which class roadway this is, and so I want to make sure that they clarify whether they do or do not need.
Okay.
So I would, yes, I'd make a motion to continue this as already accepted by the applicant to do to the July 17th meeting.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. For the record, Dina Condo Demotraki has arrived, and will be seated as a member of the board. Welcome, welcome. We thought you were gone forever, never to see again. All right, so that moves us on to 6, which is extension applications by consent. 2 items here, again, same items, or same consent agenda items. So if anybody in the audience has any questions or concerns regarding 6A or 6B, if you could make yourself known. If not, any member of the board wish to pull either of those 2 items off the agenda? If not, would someone like to make a motion to approve those applications by consent?
So move.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us on to item 7 in our agenda, which is part of our public hearings. If we could read item 7A into the record. I'm sorry, is that,
You already continued that one.
7A is already continued,
8C.
8A and 8B, so we're gonna move right along to 8C in our agenda. If we could read that into the record? Excuse me.
LSE Ursa Minor LLC and GZA Geo-Environmental Inc. on behalf of LA Brochu Inc. request approval of a minor site plan and conditional use permit application for the installation of a solar array at 67 West Portsmouth Street in the open space residential district.
All right, is the applicant here? Come on up. Could we get I think we have a determination of completeness component in this application as well.
We do indeed.
Do we?
Yes.
Do we?
So that is the very first
Okay,
thing.
let's
to
get that
determine
out of the way
complete
first.
and
So,
open the public
we're
hearing.
looking for a motion to determine the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and open the public hearing. Would someone like to make that motion that this is not a development of regional impact, that the application is complete, and open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Welcome back to the tables. If you could state your name for the record.
Oliver Sandroider for LSE Ursa Minor LLC.
And I'm Ryan DuPont, GZA.
All right, if you guys could state your addresses as well. Address, really? Okay. Address?
Address?
Business address.
40 Tower Lane, Avon, Connecticut, 06001.
188 Valley Street, Providence, Rhode Island.
All right, let's get a quick staff update on this if we could.
Okay.
Who knew?
As staff, or as the board may recall, this item was continued to allow the applicant the opportunity to address some of the incomplete items, and they have done so. In the opinion of staff, they have revised the plans. All incomplete items have been addressed, so the application is completely complete, as the
Completely
board just
complete.
determined. And staff is recommending approval of the project along with the waiver requests.
All right. If you could tell us a little bit about the project?
Of course. My name is Oliver Sandroider. I'm the Director of Business Development for Lodestar Energy, which is the owner and manager of LSE Ursa Minor LLC. Lodestar is a community solar developer that's been in business for over 10 years now. We've built, own, and operate over 40 solar arrays across the New England area, all very similar to the one that we're proposing tonight. I'm also joined here by Ryan from GZA Engineering, as well as Tracy and Jackie here alongside me. They'll speak a little bit more to the engineering that's gone into the site plans in front of you tonight, but very much look forward to the discussion. So with that, I'll hand it over to Ryan.
Sure. So the proposed solar development is located on an approximately 75-acre site, though the array itself only takes up about 18.4 acres of that site. The solar array is approximately 11,000 panels. It's 11,000 and change. The panels will have 9 feet of spacing between the rows in the panel area, and the panels are located in an area that's predominantly a grass field right now, and we intend not to perform any grading or major land disturbance as part of the installation of the solar panels. The grass under the solar panels will be allowed to be restored as a meadow condition after the panels are installed. The solar panels will be surrounded with a 7-foot tall fence for security at the completion of construction. Other project components would include 2 transformers, as well as utility poles and the electrical service back out to the utility. In order to access the solar array, there'll be a crushed stone driveway, approximately 625 feet in length, that will service the site and will terminate basically at the transformer and connection location for the site. The solar array has been located outside of zoning setbacks and environmental setbacks. It's close to 500 feet off of the street. I think it's 480 and change. It's outside of the wetland protection buffers, outside of the shoreline protection buffers. There are no proposed permanent stormwater controls for the site after construction, and that's due to the condition of the site. It's less than 5% slope. Water will be allowed to sheet flow and infiltrate into the meadow grass underneath the panels. During the construction process, there will be temporary erosion controls. There'll be a sediment trap in order to prevent silt from leaving the site when the ground's disturbed during construction, and there'll be silt fence or straw wattles or equivalent placed around the limited disturbance during the project. That's pretty much what I have for a summary of the project.
All right, questions from the board? Jeff?
Just a couple. How wide is the driveway that you're proposing in, and what types of vehicles are you expecting during construction? Because it looks kind of narrow and the entrance looks kind of tight for tractor-trailer trucks.
Yeah, I'd have to look up the exact width of the driveway. We have it somewhere. I don't believe tractor-trailer trucks are the intended vehicle. I think after construction is completed.
I'm actually talking during construction, because
okay.
you can't be parking on the
Correct.
road to unload your equipment.
Correct.
To bring it on site. And a follow-up to that is permanent maintenance. If you're leaving all the farmland soil loam out there, how do you expect a vehicle to be able to access maintenance without sinking?
The maintenance plan that we've put in place has been approved by New Hampshire Fish and Game, part of the BMPs that are approved there as well, and so it's very standard for our sites. We only do maintenance, vegetative maintenance, about twice a year, so it's very limited. Pretty much just trimming the wildflower mix that will be out there to ensure that it doesn't go up into the panels and mess with essentially the motors that will train the tracker system. So it's very minor and typically doesn't require any heavy machinery.
So if I could, Mr. Chair, so what I'm saying is if a panel, motor, something gets damaged, how are you accessing that area with a vehicle?
Just a pickup truck.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I'm just thinking aggregate soils,
Yeah.
damp, mud. So I'm just
Yeah.
trying to.
This is very, very standard for solar arrays. Will just be in a row spacing, and then again, a pickup truck is what's utilized to access that. Solar arrays have very limited maintenance in general. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
I see another hand. Dina?
What will this project be powering? This is immense.
Yeah, that's a great question. The energy from this system will be fed back into the Unitil distribution system. The West Portsmouth Street substation is right down the street from that. This will essentially bolster the grid in the entire area that substation serves. So it will provide clean energy, of course, but also resilient energy that's local to the area. Unitil is the ultimate owner and manager of that energy. So the utility, in this case Unitil, will have their point of interconnection right there on the street. Once those electrons flow back to the grid into that substation, Unitil will be able to utilize that to help balance load distribution anywhere in this, any feeder that comes off of that substation. So generally, when we build a solar project, it significantly increases grid resiliency of the local area. Anywhere along the feeder, we make significant upgrades to those feeders and to the substation. That's all part of the solar project.
So building, and I know literally nothing about it, but building a single panel, you said it's 11,000 panels total?
About 11,000, yeah.
11,000 panels total. So one post in the ground, how far down? What's the footprint in the ground itself?
Very minor. I mean, essentially, the post.
4x4 post or 6x6 type of post with
Yes.
probably a concrete pad. That
Exactly. So the
pouring.
post will be driven about 6 to 8 feet, and the modules themselves are typically in strings, so not a post for every module.
Yeah.
In a tracker system, you normally are looking for about 26 modules per string. That will allow the optimal electrical efficiency as well as them to be interconnected on that tracker system for the racking itself.
Yeah. Okay. And then sheeting of water. I know this is pretty sandy, probably a fairly well-drained area, but water coming off, is there any mechanism that disperses the water, or does it come off like my drain, my roof at my house and
Yeah.
beats a hole in the ground?
Let Brian speak to
Yeah,
stormwater.
so
yeah.
the stormwater will sheet flow off the panels. So sort of if you imagine a roof without a gutter, and it will hit the grass field, and in accordance with solar ordinance, our slope is less than 5%, and we'll have a meadow surface. And typically in those conditions, with the soil types present on the site, water will infiltrate in that condition. And once the vegetation has been established, you're unlikely to see that drip edge.
The array also has 9 feet of inter-row spacing, so between essentially either row of panels will be 9 feet of open space, as well as obviously underneath the panels themselves will be grassy meadow as well.
Plant trees there, right?
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Councilor Todd?
No, thank you. Just 11,000 panels, how much power are you expecting to generate?
Yes, so this system will be capable of exporting about 6.4 megawatts of direct current. Essentially, we are then limited to our AC, alternating current, which will be 4.98 megawatts. Within solar facilities in general, that's its rated capacity. Generally, we're only exporting that much throughout the summer, particularly in wonderful heat wave weeks. That will be when you can hit a full export. However, in the winter, it'll be slightly less than that. That's where our power factors come in, but the maximum that we're allowed to export here is 4.98 megawatts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think you said at the beginning, grading and disturbance. I mean, I don't think there's anything there now, is there? I mean, maybe a few scrub trees, but nothing.
No, yeah, this is already open field. It was previously a commercial nursery that the nursery has since proved that land to be infertile. They can't grow anything there anymore. There was a pest infestation. So that's initially how we got in touch with the landowner, and I think it's a great example of a way that you can utilize solar on land that's otherwise, even for a commercial nursery, unable to be used for much else.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay. Any other questions?
I
Jeff?
just want to follow up, Councilor Todd. About how many average homes is that wattage? I mean, just.
Yeah, yeah, obviously
Not
depends.
on a day like today.
No,
Yeah,
I mean, are we talking 1,000 homes?
About 1,000, a little less than 1,000,
Okay,
and
I'm
it
just-
depends
I'm
on.
sure people are interested. We all.
Yeah, so
Megawatts doesn't
so something maybe that would help is kilowatts, right? Kilowatt hours is something that you might see on your utility bill, how many kilowatt hours you use. This facility will generate about 10 million kilowatt hours in a year. So on your utility bill, obviously it depends on how big your home is, but generally you'd be using a few hundred kilowatt hours. And this again will be generating 10 million kilowatt hours. So significant impact of clean energy onto the grid.
So one last question that someone asked me to ask was cleaning of solar panels, aside from the rain runoff. They'd asked about cleaning the panels, and are you going to use the remote control units that run down, and is there any soap or detergent that gets washed off onto the grass?
Generally, no. There's no soap and water that will get washed out on the grid or get washed out onto the grass. We utilize Amoresco typically as our own operator and maintenance manager. They actually, the city of Concord is, I believe, also going to be used on another facility that the city is considering.
They come through and pressure wash.
Yeah,
with a
and
truck.
only about once a year. Generally, it's
okay.
very minimal.
Councilor Pierce?
Uh,
Sorry, Earl Pierce.
The inverters associated with these, are they under each panel, or is there a building? I didn't see on the plans.
So those will be string inverters. They'll be generally concentrated on the equipment pads themselves. These will be more than likely utilizing Selectria 166 inverters, but you could use different inverter mechanisms that would be more built into the actual array itself.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Did I see another hand? Dina?
I got another question listening to his question. But my question was, will there be any type of fencing around it, protective?
Yes.
Keeping people from going in, or?
Yes, there'll be a 7-foot tall fence around the perimeter array.
And I will also mention that fence will have a 6-inch, raised 6 inches above the ground to allow for clearance of native turtles, the wood turtle and spotted turtle, so that they can continue any migrations or movement throughout the site that they would like. But yeah, the fence will be 7 feet high.
Any concerns long-term? You've done this a lot. It sounds like you got a lot of panels installed over, 5 years, 10 years. What's the site going to look like 5 years, 10 years down the road?
Yeah.
Exactly like it does now?
Sometimes, typically even better. So the nice thing about solar is they're very, once they're built, they're very essentially boring. There's not a lot that goes on. The only thing that will happen is that the pollinator mix and the wildflowers will begin to grow, and the vegetation will continue to take all across the site after disturbance. Solar panels themselves are incredibly low maintenance. There's not much that you need to do with them. Again, we generally will send a crew out maybe once or twice a year. And so the site itself will continue to just be allowed to grow and remain as an open field. The site, as Ryan mentioned, the panels themselves will have a footprint of around 18 to 19 acres, but the rest of the about 36 acres that the project will encompass is similarly going to be left untouched.
And you said they're tracking, so they're going to be moving with the sun?
Yeah, very, very marginal. They'll make a minor, about a degree or so over the course of an hour as they track the sun as it crosses over the sky.
How much total during the whole course of the day do they move?
In total, I don't know the exact degrees.
I mean, do they go from one side to the other?
Yeah, they'll
or-
go.
yeah.
They'll go essentially about 45 degrees or so, and then to
Okay.
the other side.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? Nope. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your testimony. You guys can step back. If you can just sign in. I don't know if there's a sign-in sheet there. I think there is with a little note. If you could sign in. Okay, so fairly complete. Everything looked in good order here. Let's take these. So let's do our findings of fact. We'll use the information that's presented in our packet here, the testimony that the applicant provided and the questions that they answered as our finding of fact for tonight's decision. And where am I, Anne Marie? Am I looking at 3.1 for the waivers?
7.2.
No, but is it 3.1 in our packet for the waivers?
Nope. 7.2.
7.2, I got you. There you go. Thank you. Sorry. All right, so 7.2 is to grant the waiver request for section 25021 underground utilities. The site plan regulations using criteria are outlined in your packet. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that waiver as outlined?
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 7.3 is to grant the waiver request for section 2602, which is mechanical equipment. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that waiver request as outlined?
So
We'll move.
Second.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? That motion carries. 7.3 is to grant the conditional use permit for Article 28-2-4C of the zoning ordinance to allow for the proposed use of the site for a solar collection system. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that conditional use permit?
So moved.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 7.4 is to grant the minor site plan approval for the construction of site improvements associated with a commercial solar collection system subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions, and those are outlined in precedent conditions A 1 through 7 and subsequent conditions 1 through 7. Would someone like to make a motion to grant minor site plan approval?
Before we go there, I'd like to do a precedent condition number 8, that they provide information on the width of the proposed construction entrance and truck turns to make sure that vehicles can get in and not be parked on West Portsmouth Street as part of the project.
Okay, and
To
review,
engineering for their
review by
approval.
engineering?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so that will be made as precedent condition 8. You got that? Okay.
Work for you, Peter? I mean, the wording, okay, I mean, just to make sure they.
All right, would someone like to make a motion to grant that minor site plan approval as outlined?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set. Good luck. Thank you. All right, let's move on. Our agenda, we are at item 8D. You could read that into the record.
Whatever, hit a whole block.
Sean Landry, Emily Landry, R. Shep Melnick, and Joanne G. Linden request approval of a minor subdivision lot line adjustment between 224 and 226 Little Pond Road in the open space residential district.
All right, if we could get a staff update on this.
Yes. So if we can do the determination of completeness and the regional impact and open the public
All
hearing.
right, and then get a staff update?
Then I'll get this, yeah.
All right,
You got
so
it.
we've got the staff has determined the application complete, not a development of regional impact. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete, not a development of regional impact?
So-
And open the public hearing. Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Now we can get a staff update.
Okay. The applicant is proposing a minor subdivision, which is a minor lot line adjustment, to annex 0.362 acre of 226 Little Pond Road to 224 Little Pond Road. No proposed development. Staff has reviewed the application and finds that it meets all the criteria, standards, regulations, et cetera.
All right, so simple lot line adjustment. I don't know if you need to give us anything more, but
Just
Any
here to answer questions if you have any.
questions from the board? No? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? No? Close the public hearing, and thank you very much for your testimony. We won't make you sign in because you didn't say anything, so there you go. All right, so we got no variances, no waivers, just a simple lot line adjustment. So again, based on the findings of fact that we've got in our packets, the findings of fact that staff has reviewed the application. Would someone like to make a motion to grant minor subdivision approval for the lot line adjustment between 224 and 226 Little Pond Road, subject to the following precedent conditions? And those are outlined in precedent conditions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and subsequent conditions 1 through 4. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that minor subdivision approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. That moves us right on to the next item in our agenda. If we could read that into the record, 8E, is it?
It is 8E. Jonathan Halley and Warren Street Architects, Inc., on behalf of Michael Dennehy and Riverbend Community Mental Health, Inc., request approval for a major site plan and architectural design review application to convert an existing building from a business to a rooming house. Also requested are waivers from site plan regulations. The site is addressed as 3 North State Street in the Central Business Performance District. And this one is a little different in that even though it's a major site plan application, typically that would require a determination of completeness as a consent agenda item and then set the public hearing for the following month. In this particular case, the applicant requested a waiver of that 2-step process. So as our first order of business, we need to
Grant the waiver request.
grant the waiver and
Okay.
then determine the application complete.
Okay, is there any verbiage that I should read for granting the waiver for doing it in one meeting, or just make it up as I go?
It's
Always deadly, it's always dangerous when I do that. David?
I don't know if I need to recuse myself or not. My daughter receives services from Riverbend.
Why don't we be safe?
And my
Why don't we
wife
be
was
safe
on,
and,
was
why don't we
president
be
of your board for a long time. So,
Why don't we be safe, and I'll let you recuse if you
Okay.
want to formally recuse yourself. Thank you. You gotta leave and go outside the building, sit in your car.
In the heat, huh?
Sit in the bad boy chair.
Get the windows up.
Bring us back some iced tea.
We will.
Okay, so go ahead.
We'll start with motion to grant the waiver request from section 6.032C using the criteria of RSA 674-443E2.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion opposed? Motion carries.
And now if we can determine it.
Determine it
motion to-
complete.
Yeah.
All right, so staff has determined the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and we will set the public hearing to open tonight. Would someone like to make that motion that the application's complete and not a development of regional impact?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Welcome to the table. If you got the hitters here tonight, so why don't you guys state your names formally for the record, your addresses, your firstborn, and your favorite basketball team.
All right, Boston Celtics. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Philip Hastings. I'm an attorney with Cleveland Waters and Bass. I represent Michael Dennehy and a 501c3 organization that will be operating this building called Next Step Living. Jonathan Holly is here from Warren Street Architects. We, as explained in the staff report, as Anne Marie presented, this is a fairly unique project. It's the property's located at 3 North State Street. It is currently owned by Riverbend. It's, for those folks like me who have been around a little while, it's the former Concord Monitor building. Matt remembers. The proposal is to take the existing building and convert it to a rooming house use for 12 rooms serving adults with intellectual disabilities. The proposed use required a variance from the ZBA, which was granted unanimously a month or so ago. The site is extremely well situated for this use. The building requires very minor interior modifications to convert it to a residential use. There's no exterior changes required to be made whatsoever, not even cosmetic changes, I don't believe. So the building will remain exactly the same. As Anne Marie mentioned, site plan review is necessary. Major site plan review is necessary solely because of the number of rooms involved. We are asking for multiple waivers from your requirements because they simply don't apply for the to the large degree here, complying with those requirements for a major site plan approval for a building that is not undergoing any exterior changes, does not serve any real purpose, and presents an unnecessary hardship. So we are asking for multiple waivers. We were required to go to the Architectural Design Review Committee. They wondered why we were there since we were not making any exterior changes. So
They didn't ask you about cupolas or
They
shutters or anything like that. Come on, Jonathan. You couldn't let you get back up here without me saying that. You guys don't appreciate that, but we do.
We're happy to answer any questions you have. Again, Michael Dennehy's to my left and Jonathan Holly's to my right.
Great. Any questions from the board? Well, I got a couple. Great project. Thank you very much. It looks like it's well needed. I did get an inquiry from a person in town that asked about sprinklers. Is the building sprinklered now? Life safety issues with single apartments. You're putting in showers or tubs or showers and sinks and toilets in the different rooms. Does that create anything as far as the additional draw?
There'll be a laundry, a bathroom, a shower room, and a kitchen on each floor.
Okay.
So it's, and then 12 bedrooms.
Okay. And what's evacuation-wise as far as life safety? Is there any
It all meets code.
different concerns? Perfect. Any other? Good questions.
That was a good answer.
Yeah, it's a good answer. Weeks go. Dina?
Thank you. So in terms of a boarding house or rooming house. We're dealing with people, independent people who are coming and going freely.
That's right. Independent, those with intellectual and developmental disabilities who strive to live independently.
Awesome, thank you.
Well needed. Okay, any other questions from the board? Any member of the audience, any questions or concerns about this application? Everybody's here for the cool, huh? Okay. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you guys for your testimony. And in our packets, we've got some waivers. No issues with the waivers, Anne Marie, from the city?
No.
There's an awful lot of them.
Yes, and I will emphasize that there are quite a few because
It just does, it makes
Because
a
from a
topography and
there's
required
absolutely
information.
nothing
Yeah,
being
I
done to
get
the
it.
site.
I just
No lands- yeah.
have to ask.
Okay,
Because it was required to go through major
Sure,
site
sure,
plan,
yep.
that's why.
yeah.
Okay, so again, using as the findings of fact tonight is our, the information that we got in our packets, the testimony we heard from the applicant and this litany of questions we had from the board. As our findings of fact, we'll go right into 8.2, which is to grant architectural design review approval for the interior conversion of an existing building into a 12-room rooming house as submitted with no changes to the exterior of the building or the site. Would someone like to make a motion to grant architectural design review approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 8.3 is to grant the waiver request below for the listed sections of the site plan regulations using criteria of RSA 674-44-3E2 and section 3608 of the site plan regulations. And those are outlined prodigiously in the listing there. I'm not going to read them all. Would someone like to make a motion to grant the waiver request as outlined?
So moved.
Did we get a second? Speak up. My motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 8.4 is to grant major site plan approval for the conversion of the existing business building to a 12-room rooming house, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions, and those are outlined in precedent conditions 1 through 4 and subsequent conditions 1 through 5. Would someone like to make a motion to grant the major site plan approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You are all set. Good luck with the project.
Great project.
Yeah, great project. Thank you. All right, let's read item 8F into the agenda if we can, into the record. Pardon me? We could go get David or we could let him sit out there.
Brent, Brent's getting him.
Brent, give him a holler. Thank you, guys. You're all set.
Forgot David was out there.
The City of Concord requests a public hearing in accordance with New Hampshire State Law RSA 67454 for construction of a new terminal building at the Concord Municipal Airport. Site is addressed as 65 Airport Road in the industrial.
I need to recuse myself for professional reasons.
All right. For the record, Amanda Savage recusing herself for the item 8F on the agenda. And welcome back to the table, David Fox. You heard that read into the record. So we will look to 8F, which is no determination of completeness. We'll open the public hearing and welcome Tim Thompson to the table.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Tim Thompson, Assistant Director of Community Development for the City of Concord. Also serve as the city's overseer of all things Concord Municipal Airport. Here before you tonight to present where we are at with the proposed replacement of the airport terminal at Concord Municipal Airport. This terminal project goes back all the way to the 1996 Airport Master Plan, and it's long been a goal of the community to update the 1936 airport terminal. The city has been working over the number of years to obtain grant funding to provide a significant portion of the funding for this project. And on February 15th of this year, we were awarded a grant through the FAA's Airport Terminal Program in the amount of $2.51 million. This is a key financial component of this long-desired project, and the City Council approved and accepted that funding at their March 11th meeting. The design that's in front of you here tonight is at approximately 60% completion, and it's likely to change quite a bit between now and actual construction taking place while we work through the process with the federal government. The design of the project is the result of a 2019 collaboration with city officials, community members, and airport stakeholders. The idea was to reimagine the airport terminal into something that both aviation and non-aviation users would be likely attracted to use. The current design is to reorient the terminal so that it's the focal point as you approach the intersection of Regional Drive and Airport Road with a more modern design terminal building. We're proceeding through the process now under RSA 674-54, which governs governmental land uses, in which governmental land uses will appear before the planning board and will take comments from the public and the board and receive feedback on the normally applicable land use regulations that the community has. We will take that feedback back to our design team of Jacobs Engineering and incorporate as much of that as is feasible to do through the grant process and through the design process. And our goal is to comply as much as possible with the city's regulations as we move forward. We certainly would appreciate any feedback that the board and the public has here tonight. We've already received the memo from planning staff and engineering staff, and we will work to incorporate that as much as we can again in the project. Martha Drufker from the engineering division is the lead from the engineering side of things for the city, and I know that she's working closely with Jacobs to try to ensure that as much of the project is compliant as possible. We're going to endeavor to do as much of this as possible. There is a fairly tight time frame with the federal grant guidelines that we are hoping to get through and out to bid within the next month or two, which is an extremely compressed time frame because we just started getting into design of this in March, really. So it's been an active, fast process. We wanted to get this in front of you as soon as we could, but at least at a point where we feel comfortable that it's fairly far enough along that it's not going to change so significantly that it would be unrecognizable to those of you reviewing it here tonight. I'm certainly welcome to answer any questions that you may have, and we really look forward to making this project a reality.
Great, looks like a beautiful building. I did have a couple of questions on our renderings and the drawings that we've gotten. I realize they're very, the next one, that one right up there, go back up to that one. So is that supposed to be the rendering of where the sign's going to be, or is it just?
It's the signage or any signage
It's above
right now
the line,
is-
so you're going to need a variance if you.
Oh, I know. At this point, it was just, this is concept from actually the
Sure,
2021, updating the 2019 design. No signage has been designed or permitted or even contemplated.
And if you put a box around it, it's going to look kind of clunky, or, I mean, I think we could probably do something a little better with the signage. Maybe keep the nice, clean top line and put the sign
Agreed.
underneath or something.
And I did appear and got some nice feedback from the Architectural Design Review Committee earlier this month. Overall, somewhat surprisingly, being a former member of that committee myself, they were fairly supportive, only had a couple of minor suggestions in terms of design, but we realized that this is still a work in progress.
So this was the month for people to reach out to me that I either know or, and I did have a person tell me that apparently going and viewing airplanes taking off and landing is quite a little hobby, and people do it extensively down at the Manchester airport. And they wanted to know if there was any way possible as part of this grant to have a viewing tower or something. She equated it to the little tower that they have up at the apple orchard, where you can go up just 10 feet up above the fence, away from the fence so you can't jump over, but 10 feet or so up to have a nice little area where people could sit and watch the planes come and go.
There isn't any of that currently contemplated, but if I can find the right floor plan here. The area that you see here, where I'm highlighting, actually it'd probably be easier if I use this.
Yeah, no, I saw it.
This area here is basically a public circulation space, and that rear section is primarily a glass wall. So there would be some really nice visibility in this space. There's also space in the front for a small cafe and counter to hopefully bring in, occasionally somebody, not only the general public that comes in to view the planes. This is still intended to be a general aviation airport. We're not looking to do passenger service here, obviously. But we are hopeful that that space could be utilized by community groups and others as an opportunity to both showcase the airport and bring the community into the airport that typically doesn't visit there today.
Okay, great. Counselor Todd?
Yes, thank you. Yes, while you have that up, can you just point out what the other spaces are
Sure.
in this drawing, what they'll be utilized for?
Generally speaking, we have this area here would be the counter for the car rental agency, airport manager's office, some tenant space potentially in this area here, pilot's room here, men's and women's rooms. We scroll down here. This is the electrical room, and this is a pilot area for them to, if they need to get some rest, take a nap, get some separation from the general public. And then the main lobby and the public circulation space.
How many square feet, Tim?
Roughly 5,200 square feet.
Oh,
It's
so it's pretty
it's
good
not
size.
a tremendously large facility.
And single story?
Yes.
Follow-up question.
Sorry,
if I
yes.
could. Yeah, thank you. No, it's all right. So there's no space set aside, for example, for aviation flight school?
That, not in this area currently, although that tenant space could potentially be utilized by, and I think the original design from Jacobs was assuming the FAA may need some space in there, but based on conversations as we've gone through in design, it's not necessarily that they would need that much space, so there may be opportunity for the city to obtain some lease revenue from that space.
Dina,
Follow-up to Councilor Todd's question.
pull a little forward so they can
Sorry.
hear
As
you.
a follow-up to Councilor Todd's question, is the flight school gone that was there before? There was one in a building over.
They're still there, to my knowledge. That I have not been informed that they've left at this stage. And I know one of the concerns that our current airport operator has, the existing terminal and the really early on design had some overlap with the proposed new terminal, and there was questions about whether or not we would be able to do full demolition and then construction. The commitment by the city at this stage is we're shifting the location such that we will be able to keep the current terminal open until such time that the new terminal building is complete, so there should not be any downtime where we'd have to temporarily relocate anybody out of the terminal.
Is the old building going to be raised?
That is the plan right now. There are still ongoing discussions with the FAA regarding that through the National Environmental Policy Act discussions. Because this area is eligible for inclusion as a historic district, the federal law requires that the FAA go through that process and treat it as if it is. So that has put some additional work into the project that we had initially not anticipated.
Okay. And this is a city-owned property, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Counselor Todd, follow up? Yep.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Do you, so what is the space that you mentioned for potentially for the aviation flight school or for tenant? How big is that space, do you know?
I'm going to have to zoom in on that because it's really tiny text.
That's why I was asking you, 'cause I can't read it.
The tenant space is about 294 square feet.
Okay. To follow up again,
Yes.
do you know offhand what the space is of the current
I do not.
flight school? It might be bigger than that. That's what I'm wondering.
There may be some public testimony
I
coming.
think we have some public testimony that may address that, so
Okay.
we'll let that come up when it comes up.
All right, thank you.
Jeff?
So I think engineering did a great job going through these. A couple of things that I'd like to just kind of reiterate is the locations of the driveways to the intersections and the need to cut through some of those long queues that happen at that signal to get in and out. The crosswalk, when you first come in that main driveway off of Airport Road, being at such an acute angle, if there's a way to shift the parking over or take one parking out there and add it someplace else, if you've got a parking number to straighten that crosswalk, I think that'd be highly advantageous, unless that little section is gonna go away because the sidewalk's gone kind of diagonally into the intersection.
We're in complete agreement that those things need to be taken care of.
The other thing I noticed is you have I forget which plan it is. I think utility plan shows a future handhold for vehicle charging stations that is on the southwest corner of the main parking lot island. That would preclude, the way it's kind of laid out in there, having any ADA spaces be EV charging potential. So if it's possible to also put a box maybe at the other end,
Sure.
that would be great, because they also have electric cars, and as the future goes forward, more and more people will
Separate grant applications that are in the future for me, yes.
Which, but I'm just saying,
Yes,
if we can at least install
absolutely.
the conduit and that pole box or whatever's needed, I'm not saying you have to install them.
Sure.
But at least you don't have to dig the parking lot up again to do it. That's the
Understood.
big issue. Thank you. That's all I had was, looks
Okay,
good.
thanks, Jeff. And the, on the plan that you've got contractor, personnel, vehicle parking, and staging area on the inside of the fence. I don't see a road or anything that's there. I don't know how that's serviced, but I don't know what the plan.
Trying to think.
Keep
which
going
plan.
back. It's on my packet here. It's the second sheet in on my packet.
The civil or the full?
Civil.
Civil, all right.
G100, the general plan.
Yeah, G100, 2 of 12.
So it's your colorized one that you had the
right
blue
there.
hatching on.
So it's got a little box hatched out there that says contractor, personnel,
Yep.
vehicle parking, and staging. Is that a permanent
No, that is not permanent. That's just for construction.
construction? Okay, perfect. Okay, any other questions? Dina?
It's a beautiful building. I can't say I've seen something like this in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
How is it, what type of glazing are you using? Will it be comfortable in the winter? I know winters aren't as cold as they used to be, but that is a lot of glass.
I'm not going to be able to speak well to the actual architectural design and glass standards and glazing. However, excuse me, based on the conversation we had with the Architectural Design Review Committee and the process that's been ongoing since 2019, we're confident that this is going to be more than energy efficient and should
Triple
work well.
glaze and
Yeah.
kind of thing. Okay.
Hang on, I got David Fox, yes.
Just an interesting question. Do you have any data on utilization? I know other than race week, when all the corporate jets are in there, typically, I know general aviation. So I'm looking for, what's going to support this particular investment by the city in terms of its utilization?
I will allow the airport manager, I'm sure who's going to be coming up for public testimony, to probably answer that in terms of statistics. Generally speaking, we have around 85 to 100 aircraft based at the airport currently. And with the advent of the United Therapeutics hangar on the airport grounds and their corporate jets that are now coming in and out of the facility, we're hoping that that is going to serve as a springboard, as well as this terminal project, to assist with the development of the other available lease areas within the airport area itself for additional hangar development and other aviation-related development.
Can you separate the on-site, where all the tie-downs are in the hangars, the people that use the airport regularly versus visits?
Sure. I'll defer to Mr. Rolla on that when he comes up.
Okay.
Saw somebody else. Matt, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the roof is meant to look like airplane wings? If that was intentional?
Not having been here in 2019 when it was designed, I know it went through a public process with stakeholders and the public and resulted in that design.
That's pretty cool.
And the other question that came at ADR was, yes, we understand that everything is into that, and there is appropriate drainage set up to handle the roof drainage off of that.
Make sure it's not built by Boeing. We'll have to worry about the bolts falling.
Yeah, that's right. It couldn't look more different than the new building across the way, so you got contrasting wood and arch frames. Any other questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this? I'll let the manager come on up if you want to come up, if you can answer a question. Looks like you got a big office here in this whole building.
Cut that in half and make it a space.
Welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record.
My name is David Rolla. I am your current airport manager and operator for the city of Concord.
Great.
I apologize for my condition. I feel like a burnt tater tot after 12 hours outside today.
Well, you don't look like a burnt tater tot. So.
As you said, we're gearing up for race weekend, and rental cars people are already starting to arrive.
Wow.
Had 7 or 8 rental cars go out just today. And we're looking forward to a busy weekend.
So I saw your hand go up, but I don't remember what the question was that you were going to.
I think that particular question was around
Flight school.
the counselor's question about, is the flight school still there? Yes, our flight school is still there, and the relative space we are operating the flight school out of right now is about 1,600 square feet, less the rental car counter that's in that same space. They probably have about 200 square feet. We haven't quite figured out, you're right, that area that's lined up as airport manager's office, I think it would be more appropriate to call it airport operations area. One of the things that the terminal building function is at an airport is, it's a place for passengers and flight crews to go through and sign in, put in fuel requests, put in hangover requests, maintenance. As far as the flight school goes, it would be an area where flight students get dispatched, where they meet up with instructors. The aircraft operations area is a secure area, so we have to have controlled access for who's going out there. So those are all general functions that would go on in a terminal building, and I'm sure many of you are aware the existing terminal building is not particularly code compliant in many areas, and we're not actually using the terminal building as a function of the operation of the airport. It is still a 24-hour accessible building from the air side. For example, our operation is staffed from 7 a.m. until 5 p.m. 7 days a week. We have service available after hours if people would like to pay for us to essentially be there on overtime. But they don't have to. The airport's open 24 hours. So if an aircraft arrives at 10 o'clock tonight, the building that they would be able to access for restrooms and flight planning, use Wi-Fi, would be the existing terminal building. And then they could, either call an Uber, meet their family, whatever they're doing if they're staying in town, or, take a break, use our 24-hour self-service and get fuel, and then be on their way to whatever their next destination is. So the terminal building is a key part of public infrastructure. For anybody arriving by aircraft, it is the gateway to the city. And it's, as much as we tell our kids don't judge a book by its cover, people certainly make first impressions based on what they see.
What's the usage numbers? What do you see on a normal, not an every day, but just an average, week?
So on an annualized basis, the FAA has us between 30 and 35,000 operations per year. And what that counts as an operation is either a takeoff or a landing. There are a number of ways we've arrived at that. We take sample days, interpolate the data. Recently, with the advances in aircraft navigation technology, many more aircraft are able to be tracked right on the internet. You can look at it yourself on sites like FlightAware. And they show the statistics for what the usage is on a daily basis, and you can pretty easily come up with what the averages are. It doesn't necessarily.
That's like 1,000 a month plus. A person coming in. I mean, 35,000 if they come in, they go out.
So that counts things like if one of our flight students gets into an airplane and they go out on a lesson for an hour.
Yep.
It takes 6 minutes to go from taxiing to the end of the runway, taking off, going around the pattern, and landing.
Yeah.
And so, if you're on a pretty
doing
good
it 10
schedule,
times,
you can do 10 in an hour.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Right.
And so that would be 20 operations right there.
Yeah. Okay. David?
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Are you the FBO or is the
Yes.
city?
No, I am.
You're the FBO?
Yes. So we are a private company under contract. We've been in a contract with the city since 1994. My brother and I started in June of 1994 after the previous FBO, which was Fern's Flying Service.
Yep. 100 years.
They ran through December of 1993, at which time Jack Ferns took a job with the State Division of Aeronautics, where he eventually became the director. But for about 6 months, the city ran the airport and was just providing very basic services like fuel. And then there was a request for proposals, and we submitted one, and eventually got awarded it. And we have we've renewed twice to get us to where we are right now. We're in our 30th year, and Mr. Thompson has some paperwork that I need to be signing to continue our relationship for another 10 years.
So does the city contract you? So is there what's the relationship, I guess, between you and?
We have 2 contracts with the city. One is for us to be the airport manager and do things at the airport that are day-to-day operations. So 24-hour response to an emergency, answering the phone if the FAA calls and says they're looking for a missing airplane, somebody didn't close a flight plan, inspecting the airport on a daily basis, making sure all the safety precautions, all the things are safe, that there's not been vandalism. So that's one contract we have with the city, and in that contract, we are being paid to be the airport manager. In our other contract with the city, we are paying the city for the use of the city facilities that are at the airport, which include 4 hangars, a fuel farm, and a parking area for both based and itinerant transient aircraft.
All right, I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole here. I want to try to keep it on the building. So, just one quick question: old building that's there. If you had your druthers, would you keep the building or would you get rid of the building?
I support the idea that we knock down the building to make way for a new hangar to potentially be built in its footprint.
Okay.
I don't think we should knock it down
Just to
until
leave it,
we have
to leave it empty.
to leave a vacant lot there.
And one more question is the viewing stand. Again, I don't know if, do you see people other than on race weekend there viewing people from outside the fence?
Every day.
Every day?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Every day, there are people that go park in the parking lot. There are a number of people that do ham radio.
Yep.
People eat their lunch in the parking lot. There's
Okay.
people there in the morning when I arrive at 7. So I would say pretty consistently, whether there's anything going on or not, there's people looking to see if something's going to happen.
Okay. And you mentioned walking through the building, people come in at 10 o'clock at night, they walk through the building. When they're out, they're out. They can't get back in?
Unless they have made pre-arrangements
Right, okay.
to know the access code to
Okay.
get through.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board? Any member of the audience, any other member of the audience have any questions about this application? Thank you very much. If you could sign in for your testimony. Good, Tim?
I'm good. Like I said, I appreciate the feedback of the board, and we will, like I said, endeavor to do as much of the things we've heard here tonight from the ADR. And
I think an outdoor viewing stand would be very, very beneficial. It gets somebody off my back too, so. Okay.
Run that by
With that, yes, Councilor Pierce.
If you wouldn't mind if I tag on to that, because I guess I'm just wondering, just from the visuals here of the viewing area, if this really takes off, no pun intended, if this really takes off,
Oh,
right?
that's bad.
And it becomes very popular, and we get a lot more, is that space going to be enough? So I'm thinking that what you're suggesting is actually.
I mean, if you come in off of the Regional Drive side, pull into the parking lot that's there, and then have a little patio area, even if just if we didn't do a big thing, a little patio area with a couple of picnic tables that you could sit and eat your lunch and
Bike racks.
yeah, little bike racks.
Exactly. Yep.
playground, EV charging station. I mean, we'll make this, get Alex Ray, get Alex Ray in here and we'll have a whole development. Huh?
Little playground, yeah, right.
I know there was definitely the design for on the airfield side of the building to have a public space.
Yeah.
I think it would be a great idea to maybe make some kind of public-private partnership of, getting some volunteers together to maybe swing some hammers. And, build something like they have at the Apple Orchard. I'm sure that was something put up by guys who know how to do stuff like that.
So we'll follow up. Thank you very much.
Come
for your
visit us at
testimony.
the Airport Advisory Committee.
There you go. Thank you very much for your.
Anytime any of you would like to see the airport, by all means, please come by. Happy to show you around anytime.
Can you bring us in the new terminal across the way? I'm only kidding.
I'm sure at some point that'll be coming.
Only kidding. Thank you very much again for your testimony. Okay, thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. What's next on the agenda? 8G, if we could read that into the record.
You want to give a second to get Amanda back in here? If you would.
Oh, yeah, we got to grab Amanda if you could,
said,
Tim.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, Tim's gonna grab her. Nope, Tim's got her.
Let's just hang tight for a sec.
I just didn't want to get halfway through it and have to start over.
She shouldn't be here.
Yeah, she should have. Oh, right? No, we don't need to vote. There's just public testimony, so. Okay, let's read item 8G into the record if we could.
The State of New Hampshire requests a public hearing in accordance with New Hampshire State Law RSA 67454 for construction and formalization of the driveway and parking areas along Twitchell Road. Site is addressed as 105 Pleasant Street in the Institutional District.
Institutional District, really? Is the applicant here? Hey, how are you? Come on up.
Very good. How are you?
Good. Let's get a quick staff update. There's no determination of completeness. Is it 674?
Yes, it's, by state statute, it's just this hearing to receive feedback. There's no actions needed by the board, no motions.
We're excellent feedback givers, so just so you know.
Okay, good.
Okay, let's, we don't need a staff update then, do we, Anne Marie?
No.
Okay. All right, well, welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record and give us a little update on this project.
Sure. My name is Scott Carey, and I work for the State of New Hampshire Division of Public Works. And this Twitchell Road project happens to be one of the many ARPA-funded projects that the state has received money and,
Didn't know that.
work to go and repair or build new. And here we are taking an area of a roadway section at the State Office Park South campus, which is very badly deteriorated, and pavement's broken up. Sides of the roadway are gravel and have been used for parking for as long as I can remember. And what we're going to do is kind of reclaim and pave the roadway and formalize the parking area, and in turn improve there's a little bit of drainage, a little bit of closed drainage, but there's also a lot of it will be kept as is, where the grading itself, the drainage will run over the surface and flow.
Okay, additional coverage on the lot, or is it the same footprint or the same general footprint of the existing coverage?
I can tell you the impervious area is smaller than what is existing.
Okay. Okay, and this doesn't have anything to do with the other project that's going on over on the Pillsbury Building or the corner of Clinton Street and Fruit Street?
No, I do know about that project.
So is that a road? It looked to me like, when I went by the other day, it looked to me like they were putting a road in or something on, no?
No, it was a sewer line.
That's sewer line, well, that makes sense. Okay.
Yep. And so they took a big swath when they put it in.
It looked like a road. When I first looked at it, it was all regraded. I was like, oh my goodness, what are they doing over there?
No.
Okay,
Just
questions
grass.
from the board? Jeff?
Go ahead.
Go first. It's your area of expertise.
So a couple things I saw was on Clinton Street where all the angled parking spaces are, you're reinstalling signs for the parking back on city property.
Okay.
Those signs should be, if you're going to install them, should be back on state property. And then there's a couple of large trees, we don't have the plan up, but that are on city property that are adjacent to those parking areas. I'm just wondering how you're gonna protect that. I mean, there's a very beautiful big tree. And I'm
Right off the road, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
right,
and I'm concerned with, if you're reclaiming and digging that all up and regrading, are you gonna be in to the root system? And it's on, you
It's
can
on,
see it on
it's
sheet
right off
9.
of Pleasant Street, right? I mean, it's right on the left.
CI 101 shows it.
It's not a normal, it's not a maple, I mean, it's something funny. It's got
Yeah,
big
and it's
arching.
big.
Yeah,
It's-
big
it's
arching.
very, very large, and so I'm looking.
Is it near where those signs are that you're referring to?
Yeah, you've got the signs, if you're looking at the plan, and to the left is the tree.
Okay.
With north up. It's on city property, but it's like right at the property line, so when you look at the size of the tree and the roots, it's potential that they're going to be impacted during this construction.
Okay. I know we have a note in that general area where it shows some stumps.
Yep.
A little bit further back on CD 101. But I will make note of that. If it's on your property, then we will certainly take the action to keep the trees.
Yeah, just protect it.
Because we have one here. Okay, remove the tree entirety. Coordinate with the removal of the staff. So I will have to look into that and make sure that, I'm trying to think, I'm fairly familiar with the site. I don't remember a lot of big trees in the front. I'm not saying there's not, there must be. I know we took down the large pines by the building.
Yeah, this is, I don't know what type of tree it is, but if you're coming up the hill, up Pleasant Street, obviously it's on the left-hand side. It's after that first little, like the building entrance only to where the building is.
Okay, so on the right side of the plan, all the way to the right side?
So it's literally right about there.
Okay.
There's your signs that we were talking about that you're
Yeah.
showing reinstalling on city property, and then there's a tree right there.
Okay.
It's
quite
massive.
large.
I mean,
we're talking
it's gotta
3 or
be,
4 foot
yeah, it's
diameter?
gotta be at least 4 feet in diameter. It's enormous. And it's got big arching branches that come out underneath it. So-
Okay.
And it's not a maple or, I mean, I don't know what it is, but it's different. I wish Suzanne was here. She's probably yelling at the TV now, telling me what it is, but I don't know what it is.
Okay. Well, I'll certainly,
Yeah,
have that.
anything that can be done as far as that, just protecting the root system there in that area would be.
Yeah, well, if it's
much
on your
appreciated.
property, then
Yeah.
I'll make sure that we protect it and don't touch it.
Okay, I see another hand. Did I see Matt? Yes.
Question is, I'm looking at Google Maps right now, and it looks like there's 4 curb cuts existing along Pleasant Street. Are there still going to be 4 curb cuts, or are we going to try to reduce any of those? It didn't look like any were being reduced.
No, 4. I know there's 3.
Yeah, it looks like the first one, I think, that's going up Pleasant Street services another area. I think that services the old houses, the old doctor's houses that were there on the,
Well, I see the main one that goes into a wheel lock, and then there's the single one there that goes into a parking lot. I don't know what that one is. Maybe that's not a curb cut.
I think there's only 3.
And then Industrial Drive. Okay, I'm just curious.
No, that's fine. We're planning on basically keeping everything as is, but just renovating, updating,
Yeah,
building the
Alright.
base,
thank you.
of course.
Okay, other questions? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? I'm losing people left and right here. Okay, thank you very much. There's no action needed by the board, so we don't need to do any motions or take any more feedback. We will let you go.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
all. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
All right, that brings us to 8H on our agenda. If we could read item 8H into the record.
New Hampshire Land Consultants and New Hampshire Sustainable Communities LLC, on behalf of Thomas Cheney, request approvals for a major site plan application, architectural design review, conditional use permit for driveway separation, and a condominium subdivision application for an 83-unit condominium development at 153, 159, 165, and 169 Fisherville Road in the general commercial district. Also requested are waivers from certain site plan regulations.
Okay, the application has been found complete by the planning staff in prior meeting, so we will open the public hearing, and if we could get a quick staff update on this plan.
Thank you, Chair. The applicant is proposing a new 83-unit residential condominium subdivision. This will include 11 two-story buildings. It'll be developed in 2 phases. The project will be served by municipal water and sewer services. All the non-municipal utilities will be installed underground. They are proposing use of a drainage system that includes 9 Filterra systems. It's in compliance with all of the zoning code requirements, and staff they have met with the fire marshal regarding fire hydrant placement, spacing, and locations, and that was as recent as this afternoon. There is a precedent condition that addresses fire marshal concerns, so if the board approves with the conditions that are outlined, that concern will be addressed.
Okay, and staff's comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I've spoken with the fire marshal immediately after their meeting, and he is fine with that condition.
Okay. All right, welcome to the table. If you could state your names for the record and addresses. Right? Yes?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Scott Frankos of New Hampshire Land Consultants, 683C First New Hampshire Turnpike, Northwood, New Hampshire.
Shane Carter, New Hampshire Sustainable Communities. Jeff Bird, RJB Engineering in Concord.
Great. Well, tell us a little bit about this project. Now, just for the uninitiated, we heard this project a couple of years ago?
About a year and a half, yeah.
Year and a half ago. This was a major, first of its kind, high density. We've completely gone away from that. So if some of it sounds familiar, that's why. So
okay.
Tell us a little bit about what we are.
So again, Scott Frankos, New Hampshire Land Consultants. Before we came in, about a year and a half ago, it was 100 units. And it was actually a lot bigger than that the first time around. But we've pared it down. It's 83 units right now, which is 10 units per usable acre of the land. Currently out there's 4 lots with 5 curb cuts on the Fisherville, about 600 feet of frontage on Fisherville Road, and the site's serviced by water and sewer, of course. So what we're proposing is an access off of Fisherville Road, which is south of Pinehurst and north of, forgive me, I can't remember the name of the road.
Windsor.
Windsor. And on the plans, we currently show a island there. That is going to be eliminated per the traffic meeting we had. That's going to be eliminated, and the entrance is going to be shrunk down to 28 feet. Like I said, we're proposing 83 units. There's 11 buildings. 7 are 8-unit buildings, 3 are 7, and 1 is 6. In addition to that, we're adding a bunch of amenities to include a clubhouse, 1,600 square foot clubhouse with a pool and a spa area, a patio area, a couple pickleball courts, a playground, a dog park, and a 12,000 square foot lawn area as you pull into the property. It'll be to your right. In addition to that, there's a trail system that is kind of currently in place around the site. That will be enhanced. And then there are 2 fire pits that we propose in the middle, and those are proposed to be gas fire pits, not a wood-burning fire pit. So, and Shane can talk more about that. I know there was a concern on that of a butter that had sent the letter in. So, in addition, we are proposing for parking 83 units. We have we're required to have 1.5 spaces per unit at 124.5 spaces. Overall, we've got 190 on the site, which is 1 in the garage, 1 in front of each unit, and then 24 spaces spread out around the site, which are all within 500 feet of the clubhouse. There are 2 areas for parking, and the 1 handicap space is at the clubhouse, which will be amended on the plans to meet the van standard. Right now, it's a standard ADA parking. It's going to be expanded to 11 feet with a 5-foot aisle at least next to it. We have 2 dumpster locations, both on the north side of the property, to the northwest and to the northeast of the property. That was a comment came up on that, on the surround on that. That's going to be a solid vinyl fence. We showed chain link with slats. We're going to change that to vinyl. The drainage is pretty extensive, and if there's questions on that, Jeff can answer more. It's an infiltration system with Filterra systems throughout the site, and then a larger shallow pond to the left as you pull into the site. It's currently where the White House is sitting. That will be an open grass area, but it will be an infiltration area as well. Sewer connection, we are utilizing the existing manhole for back, as I understand it, a while back there was a grocery store or something looking at this site. There was a manhole left in the northeast corner of the site. We're tying into that. Our initial plan was to tie in to the southern sewer system, but when going back and forth with engineering, that was changed and we're tying into that site now. Impervious for the site, we're allowed up to 80%. We're proposing only 43.41%. Snow storage scattered around the site, and from learning from the other project across the street, we are proposing a bus stop turnout on this side as well. There is a bus stop there, signs and stuff, but it's really just you stop in traffic, and we're proposing a bus turnoff, which is it's tough to see, but it's behind this building here on the northeast corner of the property. There is a buffer. We're leaving as much as possible, 15, 20 feet around the entire site, and there was some comments about a buffer on the back side of it by the subdivision. There is about a 20-foot buffer and then a trail and then grading that goes up to the units. And of course, during construction, if there's some larger trees and stuff that can be saved, Shane will do his best to make sure that happens. We currently have the second review from the engineering and planning. Of course, you got the ADA comments. And we had a traffic scoping meeting. We submitted the traffic report. It was reviewed. Or we had a scoping meeting. It was reviewed, then we had a scoping meeting. It was kind of backwards. But Dr. Kim Hazavardi was there. He agreed to make all the changes that were agreed to in the meeting. I have the draft. It's not ready for submittal yet, but I have the draft to submit. He had a conflict tonight, so he was not able to attend. We are asking for 5 waivers and 1 conditional use permit, as I think Anne Marie stated. And with that, I'll turn it over to the board, or if Jeff or Shane have any more to say.
Okay. I do have a couple of questions. So you mentioned snow is around the units, snow storage is around the units. So on site, you're not trucking anything out?
No.
Okay. Lighting?
Lighting was prepared by Sharon Lighting, and there's a plan set
Okay.
in there.
Okay. Any signage?
Not proposed.
Okay. I did have a green space comment. So if I'm looking at plan 14 of 32 in the attachment set, there's a fairly good sized space in the middle of right in the middle of the lot. It's got the fire pit, 16 by 24 covered patio, and then a fire pit at the other end. I don't know if the fire pits are a draw. I don't know. I don't know what the draw is there. I don't know if you need 2 fire pits, but I'd love to see some of that space opened, either putting the covered patio on one end and leaving some open space in the middle for a soccer game or whatever. I see the space on looks like the southwest corner that you got almost a baseball field already set up in the bottom right-hand corner of the plan set. So I know there's some open space there, but you don't have a lot of open space for the number of places the number of units that are here. Is the top right, and I'm asking a lot of questions and not giving any time to honor, but the southeast corner, so the front corner towards Fisherville, is that going to be accessible? It's a
detention area, so okay. Occasionally there'll be water in there, but
flat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And more in this area too, also right by the pickleball courts, that's an open 12,000 square foot area.
Okay. Okay, so again, just
Yep.
for what it's worth. Earl?
Thank you. Thanks for all your hard work on this. I know you've been doing this for some time, and your community meetings have been great, so I appreciate that. We did receive a letter today from someone that lives along Alice Drive, wondering about buffer along the chain link fence. I didn't see, is there a landscape plan in here?
I didn't see, is there?
Yeah, I couldn't tell from that what the trees were. Have you thought about evergreens along that chain link fence? The concern was when the leaves are off the trees and so on and so forth, on what you would see from that neighborhood into your neighborhood. Any thoughts on that?
Currently, what we're showing is just that trying to maintain at least a 15, 20-foot existing buffer that's there. The letter mentioned mature trees back there and stuff, and we're proposing a trail to come down and around that area as well. We haven't proposed any other landscaping back there other than maintaining up to like a 20-foot buffer back there.
And there's no room for a berm.
The berm is kind of because their site's here and we're here, and there's a valley, so the berm really doesn't, wouldn't really work.
Okay. Other questions?
So I have a few. I noticed in looking at your site plan that a lot of your sidewalks don't really align with, say, maybe crossing across the street, specifically when you're coming in off front. If you were to say use the crosswalk, come directly in the site from Fishville, and then you want to go to the pickleball court, you literally have to cross the road diagonal. They don't shoot straight across, which is kind of typical of how you cross a road. So I don't know if there's some flexibility to kind of shift the maybe move the snow storage to the other side, make it bigger on the other side type of thing, and shift it, and that also puts that entrance closer to the crosswalk out at the street, which might be more conducive. Same thing when you come in the main entrance driveway, you have the sidewalk that kind of comes around and then just sort of dies at the first unit, and it doesn't cross there or connect any way anyplace else. So if it's just possible, look at that. Also was wondering, you have your gazebo and your fire pits, but you're not calling out any sort of walkway to make them accessible. So someone who does have a disability might have a hard time using those, walking through the grass. So I don't know if one fire pit or the other, maybe if there's a possibility to maybe make a connection to make it a little bit more friendly. What's that?
Like a brick walkway.
A brick or something, yeah. And it only needs to kind of be, it doesn't necessarily be from both sides, just one side or the other. So there is some, would be, I think, great. And depending on the types of people that use the facility, I know not necessarily every house unit maybe is accessible, but that doesn't mean, guest or whatever. On the driveway, I noticed, and this may change a little bit now that you're taking out the island, but you have the fire truck turning right in and right out, and never turning left in and left out. I understand the fire station's in Pennacook, but if they're on a call, the main station in downtown is going to come up, and they're going to need to make a left in.
Yep.
Or if the fire truck is heading back to the Pennacook station, it needs to make a left out. So we need to do that, check that, please. And I noticed there's a couple spots where it's odd because your fire truck is there, and it shows the box shape, and then there's a dashed line that represents the corners of it, and they don't line up.
Okay.
So when I look at that, I'm kind of like, what's going on here? And it seems to cross into a couple of the driveways where people would be parking cars. I think it can be adjusted, it's just a tweak.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that if the fire department and engineering are looking at that, they're getting an accurate plan. My very last one is the site distance drawing you drew is based on New Hampshire DOT standards, not AASHTO in compliance with the city's requirement.
Okay.
So that, it still may not be an issue, but it only has the all-season safe site distance, which is the DOT definition. It should have AASHTO intersection site distance and stopping site distance shown. Just to verify that landscaping, nothing kind of gets within those triangles. I know it's a pretty straight, flat road, but
You know, we'll
Just
show it.
for, you know, you provided it, so now let's just make sure it's right. Other than that, I think this is very interesting. You know, it's gonna be very similar to the one across the street when you look down on it.
Right.
Which is kind of neat for the area, so appreciate the extra effort for housing.
Thank you.
Can you, just a question.
Amanda?
Can you, my laptop died, can you go to the landscaping? There was just a comment about,
Did you find the landscape plan? I can't find the landscape plan.
there is one on
Sheet
30.
sheet
30, I think.
31.
Of our set, here we go.
31.
Of the of the site plans?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I wanted just to confirm some of the tree plantings, just the variety that are offered.
29.
And
32.
because I know that this is a different site, but I also was just reminding myself, making sure there weren't on the frontage of Fisherville Road, any fruit or planted trees that drop any kind of fruit in that area, so. I don't like fruit on the, yeah, those out there. Yes.
Green Spire, Little Leaf Linden is what's along.
Okay, maple, good.
Looks like mostly maples, maybe, if I'm reading this
Okay.
correctly.
Very end, it's 31.
I'm just making sure there weren't any
QC is a scarlet
maple.
oak, TC
lilac,
is a
yeah.
life.
Crab
little leaf.
apple, that's what it was, is,
Yeah, that's MS, that's
Okay.
more in the back, I think.
okay.
Next one.
So it's
Oak
not on the
and
street.
maple and
There you go.
MS
Linden.
is here,
Okay.
here, so in, looks like around the drive, the individual driveways.
It's the lack of landscape that threw me. I couldn't find it. There's nothing on
There's
it. The
more than-
normal,
there's
the
more than
normal
the-
big trees that I normally see on a landscape
It's not
plan, right
color
there.
like we see some of them.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate the additional green space from the first time we've seen this. So the crab apples that are in and around parking spaces, is that, I just want to make sure that that gives also, because it is near parking spots, sometimes that drops on cars or whatnot, so it was just a consideration. I'm not sure, not that there would be cars parking all the way out there, but it is near. And currently, as we mentioned before, on the back side of the property, the one that is going to be abutting the Alice Drive, are there existing trees at all that, like you said, that there would be some conservation of? But, and I only can see based on what's there now, but it was kind of hard and wooded.
Landscaping plan doesn't show existing, so you.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, is for the,
This
It doesn't
doesn't,
show
this,
existing.
this kind of shows what's out there for wooded.
okay.
This is all, the green area is all a wooded area back there, and we'll preserve as much as 15 to 20 feet.
I think it's just a benefit, as we said before, it benefits not only the new residents, but the existing residents, so that they're not just sitting on the porch looking at each other in the backs.
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Yes.
would it be possible on the landscaping plan to maybe show what you're intending for maintaining on those trees in the back? Because it is kind of hard to tell, and I think that might go a long way to kind of making that clear to perhaps some of the abutters and other board members of where that new line would be. If it's all woods now, obviously, it's kind of hard to tell where it would be, so that might help clarify.
And correct me if I'm wrong, did you guys put the same little islands between the units across the street and tree plantings in those as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Council
just-
Todd.
Thank you. Just following up on these comments, I think that would be very helpful, the suggestion to really be able to see what you're planning to save. And I think also, as was mentioned earlier, the abutters are really concerned about, leaves fall off the trees. I mean, I think you've chosen some nice selection of trees to put in, but if you could consider evergreens, I think that would be really helpful, just at least along that Alice Drive area, so that you can, some of the residents will have a little bit of the view that they were used to, basically the wooded view that they've grown accustomed to. That would be really helpful.
Okay. Questions from the board?
I actually do have one more. Lighting plan, as I look at it, normally I'm used to seeing values of the contours, and all I see is the circles, and then everything beyond it's zero. If if you could just re-look at that, because sheet 14 on your set. So if you kind of see the circles drawn around, normally those little contours around each individual light say 0.2, 0.4, 0.5, and then a lot of times we get spot shots because that light does go a little bit beyond the contours. Everything beyond the contours is 0. So I look at this and I kind of go, did a layer not get turned on maybe when it was printed or something that's missing some labeling? I just want to make sure that, once they all get installed, not all the neighbors are going, whoa, this seems really bright out here, we didn't expect that.
We do use Sharon Lighting to do the lighting, so I'll revisit that with them and make sure that everything's correct on it.
Like I said, it could be just a simple layer.
Yeah.
I do this all the time. I
I
get
do
it when you
see.
print and realize after, oops, a text layer got turned off or something. That'd be
Yeah, and
great.
there is values in there, but I do see what you mean where they drop right to 0 after the contours.
Yeah, and it was kind of hard to kind of tell because some of them they drop off quite a bit different from one side to the other, unless they're all cut off figures everywhere, which is hard to tell because of the way the contours.
And you said dumpsters there's 2 dumpsters, are those at the end of the hammerheads there on the north, east, and west side?
Yeah, on the north side,
Okay.
the northeast.
And fence around them, and then I saw some plantings around them as well?
Yes.
Okay. Other questions from the board? Nope. Dina?
Thank you. Looking at the sidewalks, are you kind of envisioning a shared road and pedestrian in your plan? Because being that the sidewalks do kind of end in strange places, are you kind of envisioning people walking in the street? Or utilizing the grass, kind of thinking about how the sidewalks could be added?
Anywhere specific that you can kind of?
Well, definitely right when you enter that driveway, where it ends
Right
right
here.
there, and maybe extend it 90 degrees, and then you put a crosswalk maybe, so
We could,
to go into that open space.
yeah, and during the ADR review, there were some comments too about the sidewalk and making them more curvy. As engineers, and we do right
Yeah,
angles.
we like
and-
straight lines.
Yes, straight lines are good.
But we can add crosswalk there definitely, and we did, one of the comments that came was this walkway we reconfigured because it wasn't lining up with the trail, so it is now.
And if I understand you, what you're saying is like there's nothing, or people
Yeah.
going in between the residences is gonna
Right.
have to walk in the street to get to all the sidewalks.
Correct, that's kind of what I'm wondering, if that's their
And
plan.
I think that's kind of what it is, because it's an internal development, not a city
Throughway,
street,
it's not a
right?
city street, it's not gonna be as
Exactly.
busy.
That's what people use anyways.
Right, I mean, you look at, what is it, Abbott?
Across the street.
Development, that did the same
one across the
thing,
street,
right, the
too.
one across
Yeah.
the street was approved this way.
Did I hear you right saying that the pedestrian island in the middle of the Fisherville is gonna be going away? Did I hear that?
Yes.
No, not the pedestrian island on Fishville, the island in the driveway.
The island in the middle of the driveway?
Right,
Okay,
not on
that's-
Fishville,
okay.
that one stays for safety.
Okay. So it prompts a question. So are these 2 units, are these 2 developments, I know they're separate developments, is this development and this development across the street share any commonalities? There's no pickleball on the other one across the street, so are the people gonna be coming over to use the pickleball or the dog park?
Right. When we first, our plans submitted, we were tying into sewer across the street
Yeah.
in conjunction with them. That's no longer the case.
Okay.
So there's no utility connection, there's no other amenity connection.
Okay. And exterior perimeter fencing, how tall is the fence that's gonna go around it, and is it chain link?
I'll have to look at that.
Or black wrought iron, 8 feet tall, hand forged? No?
With brick pillars like the
Brick
National
pillars,
Guard.
yeah. No.
Be lovely. Sort of like the armory. Sort of
Like
the
John
air guard.
Chorlian's project,
Yeah,
the
air guard.
Yeah.
Air guard fence.
The air guard one. Just, you don't need to know right away, but it's gonna be a question regarding screening and, neighborhood intrusion, if you will, so people are gonna wanna know what, how high the fence is and how pretty it is. I'm gonna guess that that's gonna be a question, so. All right,
One quick one, I pop.
Yep.
The trail, is that going to be kind of like an accessible so that the trail will come flush to the curb and not have a step up? from the roadway onto the
Yeah,
gravel.
currently we're showing it as if you step up that 6 inches from the
So
curb.
you wouldn't consider putting like a ramp so that somebody in a wheelchair could easily go up and kind of be pushed around?
Or a tricycle.
Or a tricycle, yeah, for a child or something, not having to mount that curb maybe.
And pave like 10 feet in
Yeah,
or
just
something.
do like a typical, you know, if it's 6 or whatever feet, you know, if you're only gonna be 6 inches higher, you could do 6 feet out of some sort of paved or concrete ramp.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Put that in the check mark box. Good job, Joe. All right, we're gonna have you guys step back. I think we got some public testimony, and then we'll probably have you come back up. So don't go far. All right, any member of the audience wish to speak to this matter? Come on up. Come on up. You got to enjoy the table. Not. Just be careful with those chairs. Don't pull them out too far. You'll fall right over backwards.
I'm familiar with that. That's right, there's no handicap access in this building.
That's right, yes. Well, there is an elevator. If you need it, we can get you on the elevator.
Don't know where that is.
Well, welcome to the table. If you could state your names for the record.
Good evening, my name is Jennifer Blackman. I live at 149 Fisherville Road.
Marcia Blackman, I also live at 149 Fisherville Road, right next door.
Right next door, on the northern side or the?
Southern side.
Southern side, okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you. I have been taking notes, and we have a couple of big concerns. The first concern for us is the request for conditional use permit for a driveway that is much closer to ours than zoning ordinances and site plan regulations would require. It is already pretty difficult to get out of our driveway many times of the day, so we're very concerned about a driveway that is much closer than it should be. In fact, my math says it's the requested 150 feet is only 75% of what the zoning ordinance requires and only 60% of what site plan regulations require.
We'll never get out of our driveway again. We'll have to stay home all the time. Between the traffic that we already have, and now this traffic from both sites here, we're surrounded, completely surrounded.
Also questions about how we will be protected during the construction of this project. Right now, the construction across the street from us, while it's in a little bit of a lull right now, in the process of the demolition of the site, our house literally vibrated for hours.
I'm waiting for it to
every
shake right
day.
off the foundation. I can't imagine right by our driveway, it's gonna be excellent.
So, wondering how we'll be protected. We would certainly expect that there would be a privacy fence along the side of our driveway, which is very close to the property line.
Because our windows are right there. Our kitchen windows, our upstairs windows.
Yeah.
We don't want to be waving to all the people over there. We expect privacy. We've lived here for, Jen bought the house a quarter of a century ago. We've watched all those trees clear cut across the street. And then they did it again.
Yep.
We should have some sort of priority somewhere as being Concord citizens for all this time, always paying our taxes, we're never criminals, and we've never had criminals living in our house. And it's been really rough over there, I can tell you that.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know you all must know
Yeah.
how many times we've called the police over the
Sure.
years. You must know about us. I know everybody must. Because the women that live over there.
We did also have some, we were kind of honed in on the fire marshal's concerns. You all mentioned that some of those seemed to have been addressed, potentially.
I'm wondering how they were addressed.
Wondering how they have been addressed.
There's one fire hydrant. One fire hydrant near our house. That's it. One, I can see it from my porch.
Yep.
It's in front of Cheney's house.
The fire code requires fire hydrants to be spaced a certain distance from buildings and a certain distance apart. The site plan proposes 2 fire hydrants And so one around the driveway and then one, I believe, in the northwest corner of the property. But the fire marshal asked for better distances on the plan to show that the proposed fire hydrants meet the spacing requirements required by the fire code.
Good to know.
Since they're gonna have fire pits over there, it'd be nice to have, you know,
The fire
A
pits are
hydrant, I
gas.
don't know, I mean-
Yeah, the fire pits are gas.
Right.
oh,
They're not wood burning.
what else is there?
I don't know,
Okay.
those were my big, yeah, how we'll be protected during construction and then maintain our privacy afterwards. And the driveway distance is a major
It's too
concern for
close.
us.
And just having one access, one driveway in and out right there, that seems to me wrong. I don't know how we can get past all that. You know, for such a huge place to just have one thing that goes in and out, that's like right near our driveway. And they're gonna have the bus pulling in, you're gonna have the bus pull in right next to our driveway, or is that?
It's up on the top,
Further
yeah.
north, the north end of
Okay.
their
On
property,
the north end.
almost across from Pinehurst, just a little north of
It's
Pinehurst.
hard enough to get out of a driveway now. We have zero police presence up in there. We need more police up there. There's crime up there. There's people living in the other woods right across the street.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much to be addressed in this situation, and nobody wants to listen to us. The
Again, I think some,
constituents, I
you know,
mean,
the issues are valid. It's a point where, you know, it's private property, so they can build on the property.
Right.
If there's damage that's done to your house, you need to make sure you're documenting it beforehand, and make sure, but they're not gonna offer any protection to say we're gonna do this or do that.
I know
'cause
they're
it's-
not gonna offer
Yeah,
any
so it's a
protection
building site, so you're definitely gonna have vibration, you're gonna have noise, you're gonna have sound.
Yep.
Just like they did across the
It's
street.
okay if our house falls down, but it's an old house, you know, it's been there a long time.
But what
We're
I'm-
older, we can't.
No,
take
but what
care
I'm saying is that you wanna get pictures of the foundations, and you wanna go around and make sure you're, you know.
Well, we
you're-
had to get pictures just because of all the
Yeah,
stuff that
yeah.
happened over there.
Yeah.
So we have tons of pictures of everything.
And regarding the driveway access, again, it's an issue, a valid issue, you know, it's a
It is.
valid issue, distance is an issue, and sight lines and turning is an issue. Can't help you with traffic, and that's unfortunate, but I know it's brutal on
I
Fisherville
want to
Road
know
in
what the study
in the
found. I mean,
morning
you
and the
talked about a
afternoon.
study, but you didn't tell us what it said.
Okay, fair enough.
Can you tell us what it said?
I don't know what it said.
It's negligible.
It's what?
Negligible.
Negligible, wow. Now, how did they do that study and when did they do it? I want to know. Because I watched those, I'm housebound, I'm disabled, I have a terminal illness, okay? I'm breathing up all this stuff. But I watched them go by and they fly by. There's that 130-mile-an-hour sign up there, forget about it. We do 50, we do wheelies on our motorcycles all the way down, you know, especially during motorcycle week. The truck traffic, the commercial traffic, the big, huge tractor trailers with smoke coming out of them, coming wafting into our house. It's awful. It's like living on a highway.
Yeah.
So I don't see how it's minimal, and I'd like to know to find out how they discovered that there's minimal traffic on my road.
Well, it's not minimal, it's a negligible increase
Oh.
in the amount of
Oh,
traffic impact
okay.
for that area. So
makes sense.
you've got X amount there, and they're gonna bring in X amount of houses, and X amount of people gonna be leaving during the day, and X amount of people gonna be coming and turning in. So and they do those studies particularly for streetlight use and things like that may necessitate, you know, some additional infrastructure be put around it, or turning lanes and things like that. So negligible typically means that the amount of intrusion that you're gonna see is not gonna change, too
It's
much.
not how it will impact us.
Mr. Chairman, that was my word, negligible. It says on page 12 of the traffic study, no significant anticipated area traffic impact.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Councilor Todd?
Thank you. I had a question. You had mentioned that you'd like to see a privacy fence put up. Is that your preference, or would you rather see, you know, a plantings, some kind of trees, some kind of evergreens? Would that be better in terms of like, looking at a fence or as opposed to looking at a?
We've also had people trespassing on our property all the time, so I don't want all those people just coming into our woods because they think it's theirs, as they do now.
I see.
everybody.
So fence would really be better
Yeah,
for that?
I would prefer that, and then we wouldn't have to see anything.
Okay.
And it would be nice to be protected from the construction when they're doing that, because the north wind will come, lived there long enough, and blow all that dirt and sand right into my windows. We do not have air conditioning, so in the summer, our windows are open. You know, we're just, we're very highly impacted by everything.
So just as a follow-up then, you'd like to see that fence put in like one of the first things to happen?
Yes, so we don't have to be
Before the
exhausted
construction
with all that
begins,
stuff,
fence
yeah.
should go in first and then, okay, thank you.
Or, if I might, another thing is a lot of times they'll do construction fencing with the netting.
Yeah, something
that
up
provides
there,
that.
yeah.
If you go up on like East Side Drive, they're rebuilding all the Havenwood Heritage Sites, and you'll see they'll put a fence up a lot of times.
Yes,
They'll put
that's beautiful.
another no, but I'm saying during construction, they put a barrier up to help
Because
control
across the street, their
visuals.
fence is like this high.
Right, and then the final could be, because it might be hard to install that fence first if you're trying to build the drainage pond and some of the other
Well,
work.
the drainage too, is there's going to be like a drainage pond right next to our house? How is that going to affect, because this has all been wetlands forever since I've lived there. So they're building on wetlands and they're draining the water to a pool that's right next to our property. So how is the water, when the water gets really high, when we're flooding, and we're already soft in our backyard, okay?
Yeah, we'll let the applicant speak to that, but I don't think they're draining anything over. That's gonna be grassed area, I believe, over in
I
that.
thought there was a drainage.
And that, it's a detention, so water detention, but it's not gonna be a pond. We'll ask him when he comes back up. Okay, anything else?
I think we've said what we need to say for now.
Okay, thank you very much
Thank
for your
you.
testimony. We'll have you step back. Anybody else wish to provide testimony? No? We'll have you guys pop back up if we could.
You sign in. Thank you.
I'm slow because,
Thank you. Okay.
So that's a little course of the full day. The peak hour is like 350 in one direction, 500 in the other. So that's a lot going on.
All right, welcome back. So you heard a couple questions regarding driveway distance, the fencing. I don't know if you want to address them, you feel free.
The driveway location, we're kind of in the middle between Pinehurst and Windsor. We are moving, there's two curb cuts for the White House that are existing right now. Those, of course, are going to be shut off, and this is moved north of the second. So we are moving further away. There's more traffic, but we are moving further away than the existing driveways that are there. We did have two wetland scientists go out. There's no wetlands on the site at all. And we did test bits throughout the site. Lou Curley Land Planning was a soil scientist. Dave Burke was the wetland scientist on it. And fencing, I think that's kind of up for discussion on what we need to do there.
Okay. I think on the driveway, I just want to stay on that just for a second. So I think the existing condition is 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 driveway curb cuts on the existing condition, right?
Yes.
And you're going to 1?
Right.
Okay. Councilor Pierce?
When you say you're moving it to the north, if you said that.
Yes.
What's the distance between this abutter's driveway and yours?
I believe that's shown.
50 feet.
And I think the abutter's driveway is right on the property line, right?
Yeah, it's really close.
Right there.
It's like 150 maybe.
I mean, it's right. It's like 2
It's like,
feet.
it's about 150 from when I scale off the plans, depending on whether you go center to center, edge to edge, depending on how you take that dimension.
Okay.
Correct, it's about 150, which is what I indicated in the
Yeah.
staff report.
Indicating the staff report. Yep.
Yeah, we have 377 feet from Windsor and 273 from Pinehurst. But if you look at this sheet, which is 19, it'll show you clearly where their driveway is, right on the property line. And then we're 150 feet north of that.
And just, did we need a waiver for that?
It's a conditional use permit.
Okay.
And that
What's
that has been requested.
What's the variant? What's the difference?
Well, the difference is the zoning ordinance has a requirement of 200 feet, and the site plan regulations have a requirement of 250 feet.
And zoning typically wins out in those.
Typically, we go with the zoning.
With the zoning. So 50 feet.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes.
Looking at the angle the driveway comes out, is it possible, like, after the first intersection, to turn the driveway and have it come up more 90, so that gives a little bit more distance from their driveway? I don't know what your grading is on each side.
When we rework that, get the island out, we could definitely.
Yeah, I'm just, you know what I'm saying, so that first kind of internal turn to the first house, if it's not gonna impact, because I see it like, looks like an underground system or something there, if you can turn it, that might give you an extra 15, 20 feet or more of separation between the two driveways, and I think narrowing it helps. Because right now, you've got the big island there, which makes it look very, very daunting. But if we now kind of narrow it up, take the island out, if there's a way to realign it.
What are telephone poles? Are they on this side or the other side?
This side.
They're on this side?
They are in this.
The utility poles.
Telephone poles are
The utility
old-fashioned
poles.
telephone
Just
poles
so you know.
with wires instead of cable. That's exactly right.
Depends on who owns it.
Okay, other questions? Fencing, I gotta, we can't dictate fencing, but, you heard from the neighbors, they'd like to see some privacy. So whatever you can do to make that a friendly neighborhood piece.
On the construction fence.
On the construction fence, I think it's a great idea. I think some construction fencing.
And I think, as it was stated, I mean, like, I think across the street, they've put the fencing up.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah.
Any
Keeps the dust
large
down.
construction company's gonna do that to protect
Keeps the
themselves.
dust down.
Right.
So if I heard the butter, they're talking about people, like, not wanting to wave to people. There, it looks like that house is where that open space will be. So there won't be any units directly behind them, correct?
Right.
Thank you.
No trees.
No, but there won't be any building.
Now, you have 150 feet before the driveway, so it's a fair distance.
Yeah.
It's certainly a lot farther than Alice Drive, which
There might be
I
some
kind
kids
of was
playing ball.
expecting some people here from Alice Drive, but, I mean, they're gonna be looking right in the back of the buildings. Other questions from the board? No? Okay. We'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much for your testimony. We'll send you back. So again, in our packets, let me get back to my piece here. Holy cow.
There was a lot to
There is a lot. Okay. So, where am I at? I am on page 7, recommendations on page 7. So again, using our findings of fact, the information that we heard here tonight, the public testimony we heard, and the plans and drawings submitted by the applicant, we've got a few items on the waiver here, on the docket here. 9.2 is to grant architectural design review approval for the 83-unit condominium subdivision development and associated accessory facilities amenities as submitted, but with the following conditions, and that is, one is to provide the walkways and trails with curvature and add trees to the interior courtyard area community space, right?
Correct.
Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to grant architectural design review as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 9.3 is to grant the waiver request for the following from the listed sections of the site plan regulations using the criteria of RFA 674-44-3E2 and section 3608 of the site plan regulations. And those are outlined in those sections 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 sections that are listed there. which revolve around preparation, windows, doors, and roofs, dimensions, tree plantings, and stormwater recharge. Would someone like to make a motion to grant those waiver requests as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 9.4 is to grant the conditional use permit in accordance with Article 2878C2, separation of driveways in non-residential districts of the zoning ordinance to allow for the proposed driveway to be approximately 150 feet from the adjacent driveway, which is less than the 200-foot distance required by the zoning ordinance. Would someone like to make a motion to grant a conditional use permit as outlined? I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Jeff?
I mean, if we're talking about the possibility of moving the driveway, this specifically says 100 feet.
Yeah.
150.
Yeah.
I'm concerned if we approve this, they're done. They don't need to look at moving this further away.
Any
So,
recommendations for?
well, I'm just wondering and there seems to be some abutter issues they still need to address with possible fencing and some construction. I'm wondering whether we, as much as I hate to push it another month, push it a month to let them deal with some of these additional.
Yeah, no, I don't want to do that. I mean, we can,
That's fine.
we could ask them to review the plan sets and discuss it with engineering and throw it in their court, but I don't want to delay it a month to maybe move it
Well, then
10 feet.
I think we should take
It's still
out
not
a
gonna move.
minimum 150 feet.
Minimum 100, that's fine. We could change that language so it says at a minimum of 150 feet, and if less or more.
Oh, right, and if
more is
possible, more work with
more
engineering
if
for
possible.
review.
I'm
I'm
fine.
fine with something. I just don't
Okay.
want to pinch it to a number and it means they don't have to work.
Okay, yeah, so
So, to
a
again, so
minimum
grant
150
the
feet?
conditional use permit in accordance with Article 2878C2, separation of driveways in non-residential districts of the zoning ordinance, to allow for the proposed driveway to be
No less
minimum
than-
of 150
no less
feet,
than.
no less than 150 feet, and more if possible,
Right, in coordination with
in coordination
engineering
with the
review,
zoning,
something like that.
with the zoning,
Right.
the zoning department, the engineering department. Pete, you okay with that?
That's fine.
Okay.
That I could support.
Applicant, okay with that? Anything you can do to try to move it, that would be great. Okay, so you can support that, and again, with less than 200 feet required by the zoning ordinance. Okay, so I think I had a motion, I made the motion, and I think I had a second on the table. Any discussion, David?
No.
Okay.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So you coming and giving testimony does work, so thank you very much for the testimony. It might not get all you want, but it does work sometimes. 9.5 is to grant major site plan approval for the 83-unit condominium subdivision development and associated accessory facilities and amenities as submitted, but subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions, and those are outlined in precedent conditions 1 through 13, and subsequent conditions 1 through 13. Would someone like to make a motion to grant major site plan approval for the project as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to make sure a couple items that I brought up get addressed as conditions through engineering.
Okay.
Truck turns for the fire truck.
Okay.
Verify the lighting so that we get an
Yep.
updated lighting plan for review, make sure there are no issues. And
Sidewalk.
sidewalk accessibility and additions throughout the site, including
Trail.
connectivity to the trail, the patio.
Fire pit.
and fire pit area, and then
Accessibility.
trying to align them to make sure from the
Yep.
road, getting into the site is,
And you had a tip down.
that was
on
the trail, that was
the
what I was
trail,
saying, the
okay.
connection to the trail would be
Okay.
accessible as well.
trees also.
Patio, fire pit.
trees were going to be saved.
Oh, and sorry, thank you very much, Counselor. On the landscaping plan, to show the approximate limits of the proposed tree line that'll be saved,
Existing.
and have those just reviewed and by staff to,
Precedent
I don't think it
conditions?
needs to come yet back to us, it just is on staff, so acceptable to what they move forward with.
Okay, as conditions of approval?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Whether it's, precedent, what would be 14 now, and
Yeah.
15 or 16 or.
So we'll add that as 14. Dina?
And is this where we would add the protective fences for the abutters? Is this where we would mention?
I don't want to put that in as a condition of approval. I don't think we can. I don't.
I can't think of
We've
anything.
not done that
would
before
warrant it.
specifically for the fact that it's, I mean, it's out of our purview in the sense that you've got to put this type of
Right.
fence, or you've got to put it this distance, or you've got to put it this height.
Hugely
So
expensive.
we'll ask them to do the fencing in accordance with what they think is
Work
a
with the
good,
abutter
is
to
a good
come to a
abutter, is a good abutter friendly fence, but I don't want to dictate size, distance, height. It's just not our purview. Are we in agreement on that? Okay. Yes.
Let me make sure we have everything.
So just clarifying what we got for 14.
Truck turns for the fire truck, sidewalk accessibility to the trail, patio, fire pit.
And up to the roadway, because if they're offset, there was one kind of
So there's a
connection
tip down,
missing.
there's a tip down on this trail.
Right.
Just generally accessibility, right?
Accessibility, general accessibility to the fire pits and that
Okay.
area.
Trails and all
The
those.
limits of the tree line on the landscaping plan, show those.
Yep.
Relook at the lighting plan, specifically the contours around the,
Make sure.
I think it's confirm the lighting plan.
Right,
not-
confirm
not-
that.
not
Well,
re-
whether it's got layers turned on or
Whether the
off
cutoffs
for
are,
review,
the
right?
cutoffs are appropriate. Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm great.
So I don't remember if we had a motion in a second, or was I
We
just
did,
reading?
we
the-
did, and then I added this
We
in.
got it. So
So
we
we had
got,
1
we're
through
into
13,
discussion,
motion
so
second.
we've got the motion in a second. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
So what,
Oh, sorry.
but we need Earl, who made the motion, to agree to those changes.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, so you made the motion,
And I
you agree with
support.
those changes, you
Yes.
support those
Still
changes
support
as
the
well?
motion as amended.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, and we've got one more, even though usually that's the last item. We've got a grant the major subdivision approval for the 83-unit condominium subdivision, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions, and those are outlined in precedent conditions 1 through 11, subsequent conditions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Would someone like to make a motion to grant the major subdivision approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Okay, you're all set. Thank you very much. Appreciate the testimony, appreciate your time. Thank you for coming in. All right, let's move on. Other business, any other items which may legally come before the board tonight? Anybody have anything that needs to be addressed by the board? If not, from the staff?
Nope.
Nope. If, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion has been made and roundly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, folks. Another month. Hey, we got out a little early tonight. Dina?